Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our very first episode of Design Trends, a new show where we explore the ins and outs of design trends currently making waves in the design world, and we show you how to recreate them in Canva. So today we are joined by Debbie Turner. My name is Ed, first and foremost, but today we're joined by visual designer Debbie Turner. Welcome, Debbie. Could you tell the viewers a little bit about you, please?
Hi, Ed, and hi, everyone from all over the world. Nice to see you here. So I've been in the design world for about 12 and a half years now, and I absolutely love all things design. Currently in Canva, I'm heading up the trending SEO team here in Cape Town, so super interested in trends and getting all those amazing trends out to you guys in Canva and in the Canva universe.
Amazing, amazing. Well, it's great to have you joining us, Debbie. Thank you for doing this. And today we're also joined by Jess, as you would know. Hello, Jess. Jess will be manning the chat section for all your comments and the Q&A section for your questions. Hello, Jess.
Hello, everyone. See you in the chat and the Q&A.
Awesome. So let's get started, Debbie. Let's hop straight into the trend that we're looking at today.
Cool. So I wish we had a drum roll. The big reveal. Our trend is escapism. So this is the first kind of overarching trend that we'll be exploring for 2021. And it's characterized by surreal visuals, dramatic colors, and expressive typography. So it's no surprise that we see escapism emerging as one of our biggest trends. And I think this is just because, we can't underestimate the effect that the pandemic's actually had on the world. And we're seeing this reflected in the design world. So we've kind of identified the overarching trend and then 3 separate sub-trends. So escape to nature, escape to an alternate reality, and escape to another time. Cool. So our first sub-trend is escape to nature. And this trend is really characterized by organic shapes, nature photography, and I'll be showing you a couple of inspiring visuals that can get you started on this trend. So this is a mood board that I put together for you guys. This trend is largely, like I said, a reaction to the pandemic. Consumers can't travel at the moment. I know I'm hugely missing being able to travel, and we won't likely be able to travel for some time. So people really want to be taken somewhere else. So we can see this coming through in organic shapes, nature photography, and scenes of beautifully illustrated other worlds that are a welcome respite from our digital screens.
Yeah, now that I think of it, this makes a ton of sense. So which platforms do you typically see this trend appearing in, or this sub-trend appearing in?
Yeah, so this trend mainly, there's a lot of it on Instagram and Pinterest, which are both quite visually inspiring platforms. And then in the video world, you'd see it coming through in Vimeo and YouTube. I know I go to Vimeo to get a lot of my visual inspiration on the video side of things.
Yes, love Vimeo, love Pinterest. So what kind of format or media do we typically see escape to nature appearing as?
Yeah, so it goes over a number of media formats, but what I've seen characterize this trend is illustration. So illustration by its very nature takes us to other worlds, as the creator is not really limited to the photographic assets at their disposal, but can create these imaginary worlds. And then you'll see in the middle of this mood board here, there are some beautiful 3D graphics, just taking the viewer to these incredible kind of floral worlds. So 3D is definitely helping this trend.
Awesome. Very awesome to see.
Cool. So I am going to take you to, I'm actually going to show you how to mock up this trend in Canva. This is a template that I've created for you guys, and we'll show you how to recreate this. So just to preface this, the escape to nature trend really pairs well from a content point of view with content such as mindfulness, meditation, and well-being. So as you can see in this image, I've gone for, instead of going for a typical jungle theme, I've gone for something quite restful, a desert image, and I've paired it with a wavy tan Astoria font, which gives the design quite an organic feeling and pairs really well with the escapist theme. And yeah, the color palette, as you can see, it's quite nature specific, but I always like to pair these kind of subdued nature graphics with a really neon font, just to help the illustrative and typographic elements stand out. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to create this in Canva.
That would be awesome.
There we go. So I've gone ahead and prepped this because we've only got an hour, and I'm going to take you through quite a few trends. I've gone ahead and prepped this template ready for our escapist trend show. So as you can see here, I'm starting with a blank canvas. I'm going to go ahead and click on the background and click into our color swatch, and you'll see I've prepared a couple of escapist colors that I'll be using throughout the presentation. And you can go ahead and if you want to create a color palette, you'll see at the bottom over here, add another color palette. This really speeds up workflow. So I'm going to choose this army green, which I think pairs really, really well with the nature trend. And then I'll click back here. You can see, because we're pushed for time, I've gone ahead and prepped a whole lot of graphics from the library just for myself. So here is that beautiful desert image that we saw in the other graphic. I'm going to go ahead and, that's not what I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and drag it into this beautiful frame. Canva's got some gorgeous frames that you can use to frame your photography. And yeah, it just really gives a nice restful feeling to the design. I've kind of stuck with the curved edges. And yeah, that's looking really good. I'm going to now put in the tan Astoria font that I mentioned earlier. I want to change the color of it, so click this text color, go into my neon yellow. You can see that standing out really nicely against the background, but I want to change that to our tan Astoria. So I'm going to go ahead and click into this text box, and you'll see on the right, it pulls up all of our fonts. And I'm going to type in, as you can see, all the beautiful tan fonts available to, I think this is for our pro users, but a lot of escapist fonts available to free as well. And that's looking really good. I think the font standing out against that background. I'm going to pair this with a wide font just to kind of balance it against the thin condensed font of the tan. So I've chosen a grander medium, and I will match that with the neon, with the other fonts. And just a quick tip, I like to use no more than 3 fonts in my designs, just because, yeah, it doesn't overwhelm the user. So I'm going to choose another tan font, which is Tan Marshall. And this is a really nice, it adds a balance here to the design. And one of my favorite tricks is if you have this section of text highlighted and you click up here on the top right of your screen next to position, you'll see copy style. You can then go ahead and magically copy this style across to the rest of your design assets. And I will just, so this design's looking pretty good, but I want to add some illustrative elements. So I've prepped them here in my folder. And you'll see, just going to click through there so I have access to it. I've chosen some thin line elements to pair well with the restful nature of this design. So I'm going to go ahead here, click on my design, and you'll see the lines appear. I'm going to send this to the back of the design so it doesn't interfere with any of my text elements. And yeah, looking pretty good, but I think I want some of those nice wavy line illustrations that we have in our Canva library. There we go. And I think these kind of circular thin line items just add a sense of rhythm and balance to the design. There we go. Just check everything lines up. And that's our design.
So it came together quite nicely. Thank you for sharing that. You made that look so easy as well.
It's a lot of prep work. But this design is actually available in we did a campaign for mindfulness visuals. So you guys will be able to reuse it if you would like.
Amazing, amazing. So thanks for that example, Debbie. So on that note, were there any other keywords, templates, fonts, effects, or any other objects for that matter in the Canva library that our viewers can search for to tap into this trend?
Yeah, so I am busy starting here a couple of ingredients to share for you. And at the end of this, we will be sharing a web presentation that will have some of these links in it and a recording of this session. So it won't have the full finished design in your inbox, but I'll give you links to access that design in these in these kind of screens.
Awesome, awesome. So do we have any questions from the community just at this time, or?
How do you choose how many fonts to use in a design? So I know you've got a tip there.
So yeah, like I said, when I was designing that, I'm just going to click back to our actual design. So I will usually pick maximum 3 fonts. I think if you're picking a font, I would try and go for something that has a number of weightings. So a font that has a really bold or heavy weighting, and then pair that with medium to light other fonts for the subheaders or the paragraphs. Otherwise, I will choose something that is quite different. So here I've gone for quite a wavy condensed font, and I've paired it with a very wide medium font. So as long as there's enough contrast, you're golden. And I wouldn't go more than 3. It just adds too much to the design, and choose fonts that are really compatible or complementary.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's it for questions at the moment.
Cool. So I'm going to move ahead onto our second sub-trend, which is escape to an alternate reality. So this trend is characterized by cosmic, psychedelic, and maximalist elements. So here is our mood board, and yeah.
What can you tell us about this trend? Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, so like Ed said, sorry, I'm going to tell you about this trend. So this is a mood board that I put together, and this trend allows the viewer to escape to other realities. So it's also, as you can see, it's quite bold, it's vibrant, there's a lot going on here. And it's a reaction to that kind of homogeneous geometric design that has reigned across a lot of industries and design, from big tech companies to social first brands. And yeah, I think 2021 calls for a little bit of personality, and this design trend is all about self-expression, individuality, not being the cookie cutter version of something else. And we can see that in the bold gradients, the backgrounds with maximalist elements, and yeah, I think color-wise, people are really looking for something hopeful, vibrant, full of life. And we're seeing this come to life in the unconventional typography. And yeah, it also really pairs well with self-care. So the design that I'm actually going to show you how to recreate is really affirming. So you'll see diagrammatic layouts meshed with beautiful gradients and quotes.
Wow, this subtrend is really gorgeous, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. It's actually one of my favorites. And we have some beautiful gradients in the Canva library. So I'm going to show you what this design looks like. And we've seen a lot of this crop up in Instagram. I know a lot of my feed contains these beautiful affirmations that are really hopeful, and it's super popular. So I think it's going to be fun to recreate. You can see it's got that diagrammatic cosmic feeling, characterized by the thin astro shapes. So all of these beautiful line shapes and assets, and the Canva library is really full of all of these illustrations and gradients that you can use to create your own, and it's going to look beautiful on any Instagram feed.
Yeah, it looks amazing. I know our audience is probably excited and bursting at the seams at the prospect of recreating this in Canva. So do you think we can show them how they can make this in Canva?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go to my second design that I've prepped for you guys. As I said before, due to time constraints, I've gone ahead and grabbed assets from the Canva library and pulled it all together. So this is my own personal folder, and it's going to allow me to recreate a design that would have taken quite a while really quickly for you guys. So as I said before, this design has some really beautiful thin lined elements, and it really adds to the kind of it makes me think of those diagrams that you see in like vintage science books. So I really love this kind of style. And back to my tan fonts, I've actually used Tan Paul here, which is such a beautiful font. It really is quite quirky. And I'm going to stick to black for this, stick to this kind of calm white background, because we are going to put a lot of color into this. I'm going to go ahead and click with my magic paintbrush tool that really saves you time. And now I'm going to bring in some of these beautiful cosmic shapes. As you can see, I've kind of chosen a color palette that really pairs well together. And I don't know, looking at this design makes me feel really good. I just love all of the kind of pinks paired with the purple. It reminds me of a sunset.
Yeah.
So really cool. And obviously, I mean, to recreate this design, I would look at the wording and try and pull out shapes that kind of match the style. So use quotes and like affirmations to give you inspiration for this trend. There we go, some beautiful cosmic shapes here.
And I really liked what you said earlier about how it reminds you of like a vintage science book. I'm totally seeing that now.
Totally. The fun side of science.
So for any science teachers in the audience, if you'd like to make a textbook for your students, there you go.
Totally. All these futuristic graphics that we've got on display here. And that is it. I think this was probably just going to go ahead and delete the other boards that I have here. So you've just got your finished design. But that is it for the Escape to an Alternate Reality. And then we have our design created in Canva.
I love that. So Debbie, just like our last little sub-trend, were there any keywords for templates or fonts or effects, or again, any other objects in the Canva library that you would suggest our viewers search to tap into this?
Yeah, we definitely pulled together, we've got some beautiful escapist fonts that we've just loaded into the library, and yeah, the Moncherie is the one that I use, but it could look equally beautiful with something like a Luna Negra. I would possibly look at using a thicker line weight if you were to go with quite a spacey font, as I've kind of matched my elements, the thin line shapes, to go with this. We've also got some really beautiful animated elements. I know that on social, animation really makes your design stand out beautifully. So yeah, I've started putting a couple of these ingredients together, just list of like a list of search terms that you could Google that you could put into the Canva search box to find these elements.
Awesome. Thank you for those exceptionally helpful insights. Do we have any time for questions from the community at this point, Jess, as well? Or are there any questions coming in?
We've got a lot of love for gradients coming in. People really appreciating the beautiful gradients and wondering how exactly they make the gradient colors. So whether you could just give us a few tips on actually creating those gradients.
Yeah, so the gradients that we have, there are a lot of gradient shapes that are in the Canva library, and a lot of them are editable. Some are set so that you would pick that color and be happy to stick with it. If you are going for an editable gradient, I would usually go for kind of like a dark to light, so or even two really different colors that pair well. So I've gone with, started with a beautiful kind of light blue and paired that with the pink. And then the trick is just really to play around. Sometimes you'll see the gradient will usually have 3 color squares up in the color box when you click on your element. And sometimes you'll just have to play around with your color choices to see if it's sitting at the edge of your gradient or if it's sitting in the middle. Sometimes you'll just have to switch those colors around so that it fades nicely from light to dark, or dark to light.
And just on that note, while we're talking about colors, you can head to canva.com/colors to take a look at a few tools we have. So we have a color palette generator, a color palette ideas board, a color wheel, and color meanings as well, if you'd like to explore what the different colors mean and how they might pair well. But yeah, it's a nice little tip there.
Yeah, really, really amazing kind of assets, as Ed said, and resources to get you started on making beautiful, colorful designs.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you.
Cool. If there aren't any more questions, I will head on to our third and final sub-trend. So this is Escape to Another Time. So we've got retro photography, pop retro grain effects in our illustrations, and futuristic graphics. So much like the other subtrends explored in this series, this subtrend is linked to the emotions that people are feeling in a post-pandemic world.
It really has been a huge driving force behind pretty much all of these subtrends today, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think definitely there were very uncertain and scary times. And when uncertainty abounds, I think it's just human nature for us to yearn for something simpler. So to look back at the past, and the past is actually quite reassuring. And people like to look back and feel a fondness or longing for that safer time.
Yeah, and that nostalgic sense that comes with that, I guess. Yeah. So how do we usually see this trend manifesting or appearing?
Yeah, so it's not tied to one medium, but you'd see it come across in illustration. It's a really fun photographic one, and then just in general graphic design. So nostalgia isn't tied to one particular period in time. So we see this in vintage pop retro, highly stylized shoots, reminiscent of the 70s. So these kind of graphics. It can be in anything from like a 90s aesthetic coming through in Japanese anime graphics. And essentially this trend covers anything that is reminiscent of another era. So from a reference point of view, there's a wealth of inspiration. However, what's really cool is the way that this trend is reinterpreted over and over.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So moving along, I'm going to show you how to recreate this, this trend in Canva. So I'll just talk a bit to the graphic that I've created. You'll see we've got these beautiful pop retro photographs that are actually in the Canva library. And this shoot was done very recently. So gorgeous assets on hand. And what's really fun about this, and I've taken a marketing approach to this particular design, is that the secondhand market is absolutely booming at the moment. So a really fun way to advertise. This is advertising a vintage shoe sale, and the colors and the beautiful photography do most of the work here. But we've got a lot of assets that help that. These gorgeous rounded corner frames really add to that vintage aesthetic, and I've paired it with quite a retro font.
Amazing.
Cool. So I'll go ahead and show you how to recreate this graphic. So I've, like all of the other trends, I've gone ahead and prepped this so that it is easy for us to show you how to recreate this trend. We'll do that. A helpful tip, if you're wanting to add assets that you can easily pull through in your design, just go ahead and start another page at the bottom here. Then you can easily paste that into your design and you'll get all of the beautiful graphics in there. So yeah, I'm going to just duplicate the shape, because the library that we've got has some really nice portrait visuals, so I want them all to look good. First things first, I'm going to pick our background color, which is this gorgeous kind of sea blue, which is super calming and also has a kind of vintage feeling. I've picked it because as you see when I pull out the photographs, there's a beautiful velvet beautiful velvet kind of couch that the girl is standing on. And that kind of gave me the inspiration for the color palette. So very often you can kind of find, if you step on a color palette, you can look at the photography that you're using and will give you a host of inspiration there. Just going to drag this into our frame.
And I guess that blue would also be opposite these rich reds, I guess opposite on the color wheel to these rich reds. So a nice bit of contrast there and draws the eyes really to these like really bright colors.
Yeah, definitely 100%. I think they're really complementary, both of these. I'm going to switch. Yeah, they are really, really complementary in terms of just picking those color palettes that work well together. And I think it's okay to kind of play around and see which visuals actually suit our tiles, even if it's just a pop of color there.
Yeah, agreed.
The yellow and the red also go super well together. So I've gone ahead and added some yellow into this design as well. So we are almost done here. And I think it's okay to give kind of like hints and props and yeah, just allude to certain elements in your design. So I'm going to click into my font box here and look for the tangy wood, which looks amazing in this design. I might just go ahead in my spacing and make the line spacing a little bit tighter. And then here, again, I've paired this with a font that's quite opposite to the quite vintage font. So I'm going to stick with the grander because I think it really pairs well with whatever I have been using here.
I like how that tangy wood font immediately gave it like a mid-century look, like just immediately.
Totally, yeah. Your font choices can really make or break a design. And I think when you get it right, it just really gives the feeling that you're wanting to portray, which in our case is this very vintage look. And now I'm just going to go ahead and group the text, check that everything's centered, and there you have it, your very own vintage shoe sale graphic.
Amazing work. Thank you for stepping us through that.
Cool, no problem. And then, like I said before, just some Canva ingredients that I'll be adding to this list that will help you recreate your very own vintage graphics. And it's not limited to the 60s retro feel. I've also got some sci-fi elements in there and some 70-ish textured magazine cutouts. And as you'll see over here, the fonts, there's some nice options. This garland reminds me of almost like a 50s vintage feeling. But that is it from my side in terms of the trends. I'm just going to go back to this graphic so we end on something beautiful. And I have shared all of the reference for the mood boards where I've found it elsewhere, just so that you guys can get inspired yourselves and pin some of those beautiful references.
Amazing, amazing. So just before we wrap up, Escape to another time, do you have any questions in the chat at the moment?
We do have some questions in the chat, and I'm really glad we've got time at the end here, maybe for a quick demo of a couple of things, if you're happy to move back to your demo screen, Debbie.
Yeah.
First one is, before we demo, is do you have any tips on using the color red, asks SL? How much is enough and how much is too much for, I guess, what it can be quite a strong color?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So red is quite a passionate color and it'll evoke quite strong emotions in the user. So in terms of red, I would often, I wouldn't use it as a strong background color. I'd bring it in maybe illustrative elements or within the photography. I think like, as you can see, this beautiful red in her skirt. There's just such gorgeous editing skills here to get that poppy red. I also wouldn't use it in text or typography, just because in terms of like a UI pattern, if you were to see this design on a website, it's usually a warning or something that an error message that pops up. So I wouldn't want to link that association with type or any subtext in the design. So I would use with caution, but it is, if you get the balance right, it can really add that life and vibrancy to your design. I think it's probably easier to use red in an illustration where you could pair it with maybe a maroon. Yeah, if that answers your question.
And hopping onto that point as well, if you're working with a photo in the Canva library, you can always select that photo, head to the adjust panel and adjust the hue and saturation to either wash out the red or change even the type of red it is to more of like an orange or more of like a fuchsia or a pinkish red, I guess, for that matter. And
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some more gradient love coming through. People are really fascinated by actually how to create the gradient or where in Canva you go to choose or edit a gradient. So I don't know if maybe you could just show us how you made one of those gradients again.
I'll just go back to my escape to an alternative reality here. And what I'll actually do is just pull apart this this element, bring it to the front. I'm going to mess around a little bit with this gradient. I've really got it remade, so don't fear. But as you can see, so this gradient is pre-made in Canva, but it's editable. So I've gone ahead and I've got a couple of color palettes that I've kind of pulled together that I really like to use, and I'm a huge fan of pink, but pink can also be quite feminine. So just finding the right balance. And you'll see here, I have chosen a pink that I love and put it in the middle. But if I were to swap that color, I'll just show you here. It can look, it gives quite a powerful feeling, but it can look overpowering if your gradient's in the wrong place. So I prefer the lighter shape, the lighter color around the gradient and a stronger color towards the middle. Does that answer your question? I think I can go over here to maybe a gradient that has 3 colors and show you what something like this could look like if I chose a warmer color palette, which could also pair really nicely. I quite like the calming effect of the blue paired with the pink. It's got that like dusky feeling, but at the same time, you could go for something quite strong like this, this kind of pinky red. You could also pair it with possibly an orange, which is really nice. I think where I would be a little bit careful is, oh, that actually works nicely, is just pairing it with something that's too dark. So you'll see here with this navy, it just doesn't allow the gradient to blend really nicely. So like I said, play around a bit, go for colors that contrast nicely, but also don't break your gradient. If I had to switch this, let me switch it back to the blue, and I can show you how it would look. So this, with the 3-color gradient, you really want to make sure that your middle color allows the white and the blue to blend really nicely. So if I had to go and pick a really strong color palette here, it kind of breaks the gradient, in my opinion. It just doesn't really allow for, you'll see that quite a strong line coming through, which doesn't give that soft gradient effect that we're really after. Another nice thing with the gradient is, what I like to do is this kind of effect where you don't fill out the shape, but you almost put your gradient at the back and then overlay one of those scientific or thin lined element graphics over it.
Beautiful. That was great. So to actually find the gradients, you could just pop into the elements menu and just search for gradients. Yeah.
Let me see if I can do that right now. So there we go. You can see there are beautiful gradient graphics. Some of them are more filled out, and you can just go ahead and browse and see which gradients. Another thing you can do is click on this information tab, and you'll see it says it pulls out the artist and some of the illustration, the name of the illustration group, and you can pull out any of the gradients from there. So I can see here, see more like this, and then it'll pull some magic recommendations for me. But yeah, you can always click on the element and then see if it pulls up any more information for you, and some more kind of inspiring gradients that are linked to that group of assets.
That's a super useful tip. Thank you. That little information panel there.
Okay.
Okay, we do have another question from Glenda. How do you determine where to place a particular image or element in a frame?
In terms of, so maybe I can go to Escape to Nature. So here, using this as an example, I would always make sure, think about why you're using the element. So for this particular frame and the photograph that I've placed in it, I wanted to speak to that nature theme, but I also want text to be readable over the photograph. So I will go ahead and click within that frame and drag it. See, if I had to drag the photograph up, I'd get a different effect, which is still cool, but I quite like the darkness of those rocks, the kind of shadows coming through. I think, yeah, if I had to, yeah, this image works really well, actually, wherever you pull it up or down. But I guess I would look at the use case for that particular frame and the photograph that I'm placing it in. So if the photograph is your hero and you don't really want to place things above it, you could go for something that's quite busy. And I guess what the frames allow you to do is crop certain parts of the image. So if you go ahead and double click, it allows me to play around with the placement of this and to also drag it possibly bigger. I really want to see that man down there. Yeah, so it just allows you, the frames are really nice. You don't have to think about the right crop of your photo. It just allows you to place it in an element and drag the photograph around. So you don't have to do all that groundwork of finding the right placement for your photo.
Fantastic, thank you. We do have another question about escapism again, about the theme. What color schemes are you seeing the most in the escapism trend? So is there a common color trend across the 3 trends that you've seen, if you had to pick like 1 or 2 colors?
Tough question. I mean, I always have a ton of colors in my color palette, but I guess it would probably be easier to answer per sub-trend. I don't think you can kind of pick 1 or 2 colors for the entire escapist theme. But I think for the nature theme, I would say your greens, browns, rust colors. And in order to make that, to kind of have a twist on that trend, like I said, adding a neon into the mix. So even if you had to pair the photograph that I've got here in the Escape to Nature with a really dark green leafy background, the neon would still come through. So I would say like rustic colors for the escapism, paired with a complementary neon. A pink would also look fantastic in a jungle scene. For the alternate realities, I'll actually just go there. For the alternate realities, you'll see there's a lot of pinks, purples, oranges, vibrant colors, but those are balanced out with your teals, your soft greens, your blues, and also a lot of neons in this trend. And then for the vintage kind of escape to another time, I would say I'm seeing a lot of this color palette in particular. I really, really love. It's kind of like that, almost a dusty blue, but paired with like a mustard, green, red, and this gorgeous kind of dusty pink. So yeah, not limited. If that answers your question, I think we are seeing a lot of natural colors, a lot of neons in pops, and then also those softer gradient colors.
Fantastic. I think we've got time for one last question here, and this one is actually more directed at you, Ed. There are a few people asking, is there somewhere that they can get feedback on some of their designs? And I was thinking the design circle would be a perfect place for them to ask those questions.
Yes, of course. So if you head to Facebook and you search up the Canva Design Circle, we have an awesome community there, 100K strong, of fellow designers, fellow creatives, freelancers, everyday people sharing their designs for feedback, getting tips, sharing tips. We've also got tutorials there. So yeah, head to Facebook, search up the Canva Design Circle, and we'd love to have you join us.
Yeah, is it Facebook/group/Canva Design Circle? Is that what it is? I was going to put the link in the chat.
Yes, I can put the link in the chat right now.
Yeah, that'd be great. And we've got another couple of questions. Where can I follow for new design trends? Do you have any recommendations? Well, Debbie, you might have a thought there, but I also wanted to let everyone know that this is going to be a regular show. So definitely stay tuned for more design trends show. We're hoping to have one a season. So we'll certainly be letting you know of the latest design trends. Debbie, have you've got any go-tos where you go to hear about the latest trends?
Yeah, I have. I've got a feed on my Chrome tab, which is a Muesli. If you go to MUZLI, Muesli, it is a little widget, and you will be able to. It pulls in. You can obviously filter your interests, and mine is very design specific. But it will pull in a lot of reference from like Dribble, Behance, DZine. And then also I think Instagram is an absolutely fantastic place to get in your search feed, and it also learns what you like. So I think Instagram, Pinterest, also really fantastic place. But yeah, I go to a number of different sources just to make sure I've got a breadth of inspiration.
Amazing. Some excellent tips there for everybody to try out. I think that we'll wrap it up now today for the questions. So thank you so much, Debbie.
You are so welcome, and it's been amazing meeting all of you guys, all of the people on the chat, and I hope this really inspires you to create your own visual designs.
So you can check out, I've put the link in the chat. More webinars coming up through Canva Space and advertised through the Design Circle. So make sure you check out canva.com/Canva-space for more workshops and webinars coming up and more design trends shows. We look forward to seeing you at another one in the future. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Cool. Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Bye-bye.